This is episode 313 of the Seahawkers podcast. I'm Brandan Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and joining me, my good buddy and Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
Yep,
Catfish!
the Rams.
Catfish!
Come.
Yes.
God, that was frustrating.
I can tell that you've just held on to that throughout the week. Like, as you're chopping wood out in the mountains, it's just with every swing of the axe, it's
Catfish!
the Rams.
Yeah, I would, every time I put up a piece to split, because we have a lot of wood to split here so we don't freeze the hell to death over the course of the winter, I would picture Football Barbie's face on each block of wood. And Football Barbie, according to Mary Mead, the fine partner of our little flocker Annalisa, she coined that term, is for Jared Goff. And I'm
surprised
sticking.
you had to explain it, because I'm sure just as you said Football Barbie, everybody just pictured Jared Goff in each of their minds.
It's too perfect. And so I split his face in half probably, 2,000 times today.
Well,
it's therapeutic. I'm saying.
I was going to say, at least there's some therapeutic nature to that.
I'm not nearly as mad today as I was on Sunday. That was very frustrating on Sunday. But as of today, not nearly as angry, maybe more in the vein of disappointed. But I don't know how much we really are going to get into every play and all that stuff. But, just a tough day all around for the Seahawks.
Yeah, tough day all around. We'll get into what we get into. I don't have much of a plan for what we're going to do in this show. I know it's not going to be the longest show because we do have a short week and the Seahawks are playing Thursday. So it'll be nice to get that last game behind us and then look ahead to this one. And we'll see how we go forward after this Thursday night game and what you and I do as far as recording episodes. But because the Seahawks did lose, we got quite a bit of feedback of people who screwed this up. For as much as we cover this every single time that the Seahawks lose, you think people would start to learn and square their stuff away. But, we're never short of people who recognize that maybe they screwed things up. And we'll start with @IslandNux on Twitter. Says, well, it's that time again where I will step up and take full responsibility for this past week's loss. On every given Sunday, I prepare for a great day of Seahawks football with a mug of Bailey's and coffee in my trusted Seahawks mug. This past Saturday, however, I failed to put my dishwasher on, leaving the mug dirty. In my pure laziness, I decided to drink this tasty beverage in a regular mug, and lo and behold, our team lost. Never again will I succumb to my natural laziness. Sorry, Seahawks Nation. Go Hawks.
Yeah, go Hawks, man. That's tough. I mean, because I totally understand the idea of, I don't really want to watch that right now. I get that.
We all have some natural laziness that we succumb to.
Oh, yeah. I'm a captain natural laziness. So I totally get it.
I kind of like blaming this loss on an entire country, though, because Dan checks in from the flock, says, hey, guys, I think it's possible to put the blame for the last two defeats squarely at the foot of the country of England. Ever since we went into our second national lockdown, the defense has been the worst I've seen it, and Russ is no longer able to cook. I'm doing all I can from my personal perspective, not starting the opposing QB in my fantasy football league, but it seems the entire country is working against the Seahawks. For reference, we entered this lockdown on November 5th. The game before that was the 49ers game. The game after that was the Bills. By these calculations, our next win will be against the Giants. Keep up the good work. I'll be listening week in and week out regardless. From Dan.
Dan may be onto something there. I mean, I guess we're all mad at Boris Johnson today. Is that it?
I mean, he puts forward some sound logic.
Yeah, he does. Dan does. And, I can see how Boris would be responsible for this by putting everybody on lockdown. Also, for inflicting us with his Dennis the Menace hair. Like, we all have to live with that, too. So, yeah, it's England's fault.
England, get Boris to get a real haircut, and this will this will turn things around for Russell Wilson and the Seahawks defense. Like, you can still keep the lockdown, just get the haircut fixed.
Yep, that might be where it's at. You're right.
Never know. And finally, Jackson from Den, and I'm not sure if it's Denver or Denmark. It just says Jackson from Den.
I'm going to go with Denver.
Going to go with Denver? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm here to say one thing. Sorry. I'm to blame for the Seahawks losing. I always wear my Chris Carson jersey over my Russell Wilson jersey, but last game I wore opposite, and my birthday used all the luck for me and none for the Seahawks. So please forgive me and go Hawks. Says, P.S. Isn't it hilarious that Jamal Adams is our sack leader?
Oh, go Hawks. It's almost hilarious, but not to be unexpected, right? And the sadder part is that he hasn't played in a lot of games, but
5 games. He's played 5 games.
Yeah.
5.5 sacks.
I understand like the jersey swapping and all that. Like, I know that I did everything I could. Like I started in the hoodie that had worked all year. That obviously went to pot. So then I changed once and it didn't really help. And then I changed again. I mean, I kind of went through all the motions. I sat in different spots.
Yeah.
You know, I tried everything. And I kind of feel like, even though there's a few little flockers that came forward here to, you know, man up and take one for the team here. This doesn't feel like it's on us. None of us. This feels like it's on the Seahawks themselves and some decisions that have gotten us here. And so I'd like to say all the Hawkras of all of us are cleansed. And this isn't on us.
That's good. A nice Hawkra cleansing for everybody. Now, as a fan base, we don't have to worry as a collective group that it's something that we've been doing. So the slate is clean. You know, if you have new gear to wear, do that. If you go back to your old gear, now it's okay because we've gotten through this now.
Absolutely. And I'd like to think that going into this Arizona game that Russ has kind of gotten through this little mini funk that he's been in the last 3-4 weeks. And I actually have a fair amount of faith in that. We enter this Arizona game and I definitely have some trepidation, but rightfully so, after watching him stink up the joint in relative terms, quote unquote, this game against the Rams, it wasn't his best game. We had a discussion earlier today. Was this his worst game of the season? I'm not entirely sure.
I think it was his worst game of the season because of so many different decisions that he made. And even if you put the decision to try and fit that ball in there to Will Dissly in the end zone as possibly his worst decision of the season, I mean, that's got to weigh pretty heavy. To not fall on the football, to try and I don't know why he was trying to pick it up as he was kicking the football on the fumble. You don't have to put all of that on Russ, obviously, because it was a low snap. But fall on the football.
I put 0% on that on Russ. Like, we're mad at him because the backup center put one to his the tops of his toenails and he couldn't come up with it.
I don't say 100% though, but I say 5% is just fall on the dang football.
No, I'm never going to get mad at him for trying to make a play in that situation.
Yeah, like that wasn't the linebacker running straight at him.
Whoop-de-doo-dah. Like, out of all of them, like, that was the one that I had literally zero problem with. The one to Dissly, though, that just can't happen. I mean, he had daylight for days. That's not a decision that Russ normally makes, go back across the body all the way downfield. And the thing is he was just like 10 seconds late on the throw. I mean, he had him early in the route.
Oh, yeah. He was in the pocket and Dissly was open.
Yeah. And that was kind of the microcosm of the day. It felt like Russ missed all the opportunities and then managed to fall into a few traps. And on top of that, all day long, he was throwing the ball high. And we've seen this out of him throughout seasons where he'll go into these little stretches where he's sailing the ball. And I don't know what it is. If this was golf, I could swing coach you through it and tell you what it is that you're doing. Hey, Mitt, you're opening your hips early, whatever it is. I'm not a quarterback coach, so I can't tell you the reason why he goes to these spurts. Fortunately, he's been able to figure it out in the past. So I think between figuring that out and then just being like, hey, maybe I should just take what's there instead of going for kill shots and big plays on every throw.
And I think that's a big part of it. I think it's mentality. Now, that's not going to stop the high throws. Like, he could figure that out. But there is something mentally there. And James Regeland comes in via Facebook, says, I apologize if either of you are #LetRussCook, but hopefully that movement goes the way of the dinosaur. Now, I'm not saying run on every play and be predictable. And I know Chris Carson was hurt, but I think everybody saw what happens when all you do is pass. Seahawks are at their best when they can run the football effectively. On top of that, the best defense is an offense that controls the time of possession. The Rams from James.
All right. So I want to know, usually I respond first on these sort of things, Brandon, but I would actually like to hear your thoughts first on what he had to say.
Okay. I think anyone who's listened to us knows that we're not all in on the slogan. And I am a little bit worried that the slogan might be going to his head, as if, he buys into this idea that he has to do it all. And that's why we see all these kill shots, because you can cook and not run the ball. You can throw the little dump offs to the dudes who are open underneath. I'm just not seeing that kind of patience from Russ when he needs to be patient. And he's aggressive. Like that throw to Disley was overly aggressive when he didn't need to be. So I just think that Russ needs to show a balance of patience and aggressiveness. And I'm not seeing enough of the patience side of it. Like we did on the one throw to Freddie Swain on the left side, where he is just standing by himself. And Russ gets, it's only 1 yard of intended air yards because he's standing essentially at the line of scrimmage, but he ends up getting 20 yards after the catch.
Well, okay, but that play was designed for Swain. Like, do you remember that, watching that play? It was really creative.
The way
I
they
remember
set it
being
up.
like, yeah, I was like, woo, hey, Skybox Shotty, I see you. But here's the...
Well, Russ has to get used to being okay with making that throw or the throws for 4 or 5. Because after that game, I was wondering if it was Shotty who just didn't develop enough plays that had the underneath intermediate routes for Russ to check down to when the kill shots weren't there. And they were there. It was just that he chose not to take them in a couple of different situations.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's really evident that he's just trying to push the ball too far down the field on every throw. And the thing is that both of us went into this season and this offseason, and people with the let Russ cook thing, we were both kind of like, yeah, that's cute and all. But when you do that, when you don't have a good defense and you give up on the run, that you live and die with your quarterback having to play at an MVP level on a historic pace, week in, week out to win. And while it looks good, while your fantasy points are nice and all that, it is broken football. And I hate to sit here and be with you here, Brandon, and have us look at a lot of those people on the let Russ cook train and tell them to their face, told you so, told you so. This is what happens. Sure, you catch the league by storm for 4 or 5 weeks. Nobody can quite figure it out. Then people figure it out. Oh, you just blitzed the catfish out of him off the edge. And that makes him freak out. And you're going to hope for 2 Russ mistakes. And that's all people have been doing. And instead of adjusting on an offensive basis by let's call some catfishing screens. That's the perfect remedy for that sort of thing. Or have the tight end that the edge that the blitzer's coming from hook up and just be right there for 3 yards and just bonk and just hit him and let him run for another 10.
Yeah.
Have some hots. I don't understand how we've gotten to this place offensively. I mean, I understand how it's happened. I just hate it. I hate this brand of football. I hate that our defense sucks so freaking bad. I hate that we are now somehow for the millionth season in a row relying on our 14th running back. It drives me catfishing crazy to watch. And I was texting with the DCH, our resident reverse jinxer, right? During the game. And he's like, defense sucks. It's hard to watch. I was like, yeah, well, at least we get prime Russ, and I've just tried to watch that, close my eyes. No, I had my eyeballs burned by all of it this last game. So to me, it's very simple. They need to make a few adjustments. And part of it is, yes, they need to run the ball more. Does it need to be first down all the time? No, they just need to mix it in more often, but with either a healthy Chris Carson or Carlos Hyde. Until that happens, it's going to be a lot of this.
Russell Wilson is already at double-digit interceptions. He's only hit double digits 3 times. One was in 2012 when he had his lowest throwing output of his career in his rookie season. 2016, he had 11. 2017, he had 11. So the next pick, he's going to be tied for his career high for a season.
Well, freaking duh. When you're hucking it up 50 times a game, do you think there's more chances at interceptions
Oh, yeah.
to make mistakes, especially when he takes all those 50-50 shots. Like, that's just the way that's going to go. And then the other problem with this last game with the Rams is that he had DK twice, missed him when he actually threw it to him. Then he runs wide open on another route late in the game, throws his hand up, the ball doesn't come to him for some unknown reason. He missed Tyler, I believe, on 2 deep shots as well.
Yeah, at least one.
And at least one.
The other one was like into triple coverage that just fell incomplete.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's like he was just off by that much. And that's what it takes to end up losing by a couple scores to the Rams. And I knew it wasn't a couple scores, but it was a couple scores. We were down all day.
Right.
And it was so frustrating because the thing is, Brandon, I don't know if you agree, second half, defense did its job.
It did to an extent. I'm not one of the people that's ready to get on board and say that what the defense did in the second half shows me that they've found out and figured out all their issues. I saw a Rams team that wasn't as aggressive in the second half. I saw a Rams team that, a Rams quarterback that missed a wide open Tyler Higbee on a key third down that would have kept a drive going. So I can't put that on the defense. Now there were some nice things that they did to get the team off the field in the second half, but I don't see the defense being fixed.
No, and that was not what I was intending to say.
Okay.
I guess what I was getting at is that when this defense actually comes up for a quarter or a half and gives it to you for you, like, you have to seal the deal on that. You have to win those games.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get many of those opportunities.
Well, I want to see that from the defense in the first 20 minutes of the game and not the last 20 minutes.
Well, that's very wishful thinking, Brandon. And I'm glad that you would like to see that. So at the end of the day, like, we got to accept the defense for what it is, because Pete's not going to make any changes. I mean, I've sat here and I've heard a lot of the other podcasters and all that in Seahawks world, and they're freaking out. Fire Ken Norton. And yeah, I'm on board at this point. Yeah, fire Ken Norton. But guess what? It ain't happening. So what else? So you're going to have to get over that and try to figure out what else this team can do.
Well, there's a couple things that this team could do. They could be, for one, more aggressive on fourth down when you have 3 inches to get the first down.
Yeah, that's when I officially broke something in the living room.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, that call, oh my God, 4th and inches. And I love that the Seattle press came at him, Pete Carroll.
Oh, they came at him hard. I think they...
Okay. For Seattle terms,
media.
For Seattle terms, they dropped the passive part of mildly aggressive. Like, you could switch those 2 words, passive for mildly. And they actually tried to hold his feet to the fire. But the more disappointing thing you heard out of Pete was, well, I would do it again. It's like, well, wait a second. Why are you putting all your faith in the side of the ball that is terrible right now, instead of the faith in the side of the ball that is your bread and butter? Like, it just makes 0 sense.
The Seahawks defense is so bad right now. If it's less than 4th and 5 and they're outside of field goal range, I'm for going for it every single time, because if you're going to give up a drive of 85, 90 yards or give up a drive of 40 yards, I'll take the 40-yard one. You get the team to the red zone faster, and you can see if they can kick a field goal or score a touchdown, and then you get the ball back. Like, I just don't want to see them giving up 85-yard drives consistently.
Right. And with all that time being run off, with them getting even more tired. Like, I don't understand. In fact, I think that if you went back and looked, the defense has probably played better when it's had a short field.
That's what I've noticed.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, if you're past your own 40, and just like you said, it's 4th and less than 5, go for it every time at this point. And I hate this brand of football. I don't like it. I'm not saying that this is what I would want for the future.
No, I'm saying that's what this team needs to do right now.
Yeah.
Because that's the way it's built.
But to sit there and try to do the stupid hard count and then take a delay of game just so you have more room to punt it.
Yeah.
I mean, black.
It was gross. It was gross the whole time, watching them try and do the hard count. And I'm thinking, okay, well, they have a 25-second play clock. It kind of makes sense to try it a few times. Maybe you get the defense on their heels a little bit by hard counting and not snapping a few times.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just didn't do it. It was so, and You mentioned how furious you were at something that Pete said in the press conference, but even in his interview on 710, he made it sound like he's the most prolific go-for-it guy in NFL history when he's not even close. Okay, Pete, I know in college you were go for it all the time on fourth down, and maybe when you started in Seattle back in 2010 through 2012, you went for it a little more often in fourth down. But we haven't seen you be prolific at going for it in these last few years in Seattle.
Prolific would be the wrong word. I mean, there's some memorable ones, right? Like, there's been times where Pete's gone for it. I mean, I can remember some
I'm saying
epic
that
John Ryan moments, but at the end of the day, he's not Doug Peterson.
No, and that's what I think he was equating himself to guys like Doug Peterson and Andy Reid, and he's just not. He's not there.
No, he's not there. And I can't understand how Shoddy sits there and goes, yep, okay, we'll try this, hard count thing. How does Russell go out there and just go, yeah, sure, cool, totally, yeah. How about, I can't imagine him, like, if I'm Russ in that situation, how do you not go up to Fuller when you're in the huddle and be like, look, this is what's called, everybody else is going to think that's the call. When I goose you, you snap the ball and I'm lunging forward.
Yeah, we're doing this.
We're doing this. At some point, Tom Brady has done this a million times, right? Or he's just like, no. I mean, Brett Favre would do that all the time. I mean, that's what the greats do. Like, at some point, you got to look at your coach and be like, yeah, you're way off the reservation.
And the other thing that I look at with the defense and why I'm not, patting them on the back for this game, their third down conversion percentage through the first three quarters, they were 10 of 12. In allowing conversions by the Rams on third down. And it wasn't like they were all 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3. They were giving up 3rd and 13 and 3rd and 11, penalties on third down that were either giving them a first down or they'd catch the ball anyway. It was, the defense could not get off the field.
It honestly feels like when it's 3rd and 15 or less, it's a surefire thing they're giving it up.
Which is gross.
It's super gross. You said their third down percentage is bad. Their everything percentage is bad. Yeah. Like it's all trash. I mean, the Rams scored, I think, on their first first 3 possessions. It was like a flashback to the Bills game. And it puts too much pressure on the offense. You got to be able to hold them to not a score on just one drive, on just one. I don't know, man. The defense does need to change. Ken Norton does need to go. It really does. And I love your suggestion of Wade Phillips. And I think Pete needs to be like, all right, this year with this team, with this personnel, clearly my scheme and the way I want to do things isn't going to work. I mean, you heard him talk about having Dunbar and being like, oh, well, he doesn't play the way that I like.
Right.
And then you've got Jamal Adams, who is not a secondary player, right? He's a de facto linebacker.
Yeah.
And Pete just wants all these catfish linebackers out there at all time. It's not working. I would love to see another guy with a pedigree come in and just be like, all right, for half of a season. And Wade's old enough to where he doesn't need to be there for 3 years. Be like, I'll be here for half a season. We're going to do it my way.
Yeah.
It can't be worse.
It can't be. There's no way it could be worse. And you brought up Jamal Adams. It's starting to seem like Jamal Adams is getting the Jimmy Graham treatment from Seahawks fans. And I don't necessarily know what the problem is. I don't know if it's because he just hasn't been all that great in coverage, but I don't think that that's why you brought in Jamal Adams. Like, this is why you brought him in. You're getting exactly what you brought him in for, to get after the quarterback, cause turnovers. He stripped Goff in this past game. It was unfortunate that didn't turn into points like it should have. But I look at Jamal Adams and I say, okay, yeah, 5.5 sacks through 5 games. The numbers of tackles for a loss, he has 6 already, which is huge. He has 9 quarterback hits. You look at that over a 16-game average, and I hate to be on pace guy, but
right.
for over 5 games, I mean, if you're getting up near 20 tackles for a loss, up over 20 quarterback hits, and you're getting toward double-digit sacks, that's huge.
Yeah, it's monstrous. Like, I guess I don't understand the Jamal Adams hate. Like, that doesn't make a lick of sense
Oh, well,
to me.
people who would rather have 2 first-round draft picks. I mean, because, how many snaps?
So that we can burn them on a dude who gets, concussed in an ATV accident, or another
Catfish!
running back who can't play? Well, whoop-de-doo. And especially next year's draft when nobody knows these players because of the vid.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
Well, Jamal Adams has been injured. You can hardly stay healthy on the field. Well, how many snaps have those 2 future first-round picks played this year?
Exactly. And how many will they actually play?
Yeah.
I'm not optimistic. Boy, they really went out and got a game changer with Jordan Brooks this year. Like, thank God that they held on to that first and didn't trade for a pass rusher.
Okay, well, Jordan Brooks actually had a decent play in this game, and this is something else that I want to get to with regard to the defense. And Amy in our Facebook group brought this up. She said, we keep talking about waiting for someone to come back and thinking about what will happen when they do. It doesn't matter. Play the game in front of you. Bring back the juice. We had none in this game, even on good plays, not that there were many. And go back to the Seahawks defense against the Atlanta Falcons, game 1. It was this season, and you saw so many hard hits in that game. Yes, the defense gave up a ton of yards to Matt Ryan, but they were bringing the wood on so many more hits. And I have not seen that since the week 1 of this season.
I'll tell you straight up.
I saw a little bit of it, though, with Jordan Brooks on 3rd down on Robert Woods in this game, late in the game. And that was, and I think there was one maybe there was one by Ugo Amadi for sure on the outside. So there were a couple hits that and I'm just thinking to myself, I want more of that.
Absolutely. And the reason why you're not seeing that energy out of the defense right now is that they all know that every week, week in, week out, when they go in and face their opponent, they are overmatched by the coaching staff across from them. I mean, they're looking at Ken Norton, and they've all lost complete faith in this guy. There's no doubt in my mind that they are angry and upset and just frustrated, and Pete's not going to motivate these guys out of that funk as long as Ken Norton's the defensive coordinator. Because you're 100% right. The energy on the sidelines, both offensively and defensively, cheering for one another and all that, has gone down drastically over the last few weeks. And it's because they all see it. Like, do you think you're going to fool Bobby Wagner, Jamal Adams, KJ Wright, veterans, that Ken Norton's going to figure it out and turn it around? You're not going to fool them. You're not. Those OG guys, and that's why you're seeing the lack of energy.
John the Bar Davison comes in with an email, says, "Hi, fellas. Well, it's crisis time, obviously, for the Hawks. We are crumbling and falling to pieces and will never win another game. So I suppose all of your correspondence will be 1, sack the coach, 2, sack the defensive coordinator, 3, the defense is rubbish, 4, the DBs are useless, 5, Russell isn't cooking. Well, you're not going to hear that from me. I would think we are working our tails off to correct this. The first half of the season, we went 6-2, so if we go that in the second half, we will be 12-4, and who wouldn't take that? Other reasons to rejoice? Well, we kicked a 61. Yes, 61-yard field goal, the best you are going to see for a number of years, I guess. And the best news of the season was that we only conceded 23 points, and you would have taken that too over the last few weeks. So, people, there are different ways of looking at things, so let's get back on track on Thursday night and then play the NFC least. Go Hawks from the optimistic Bard."
So John hits on a few things that I think is important. I heard Nemhauser and Evan Hill on their post-game podcast and talking about Pete signing his 5-year deal. Oh, well, we need to fire Pete. Get rid of Pete. Da-da-da-da-da. Like, whoa, the brakes, guys. Okay? We're all mad after that game. We're all mad after these last 4 games. To go 1-3 when you felt like you're in the catbird seat, it's frustrating. This team has these little funks like every year. I'm just glad it's happening now instead of the last 5 weeks like it's happened the last couple of years, right? I have a feeling they can get this back on track. But let's just take a breath here. We are 6-3.
Yes.
Okay?
Lost to 2 good teams on the road.
Right. when your best player
Well, three
wasn't
good
at his
teams on
best.
the road because we lost to Arizona on the road.
Right.
Well, two good teams because the Rams aren't really a good team.
Well, you can make up your mind how many good teams they lost to. They lost 3 games. That's what, one way or the other.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, this coach has brought you winning season after winning season since they brought in Russell Wilson. So you're telling me the people that are like, oh, fire Pete. You're the same people who don't remember what it means to be a Seahawks fan like back in the 80s, right? Yeah. In the early 90s. It was brutal. It was brutal. Like
I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on Fire Pete. I kind of want to celebrate Jason Myers and the 61-yard field goal, breaking the franchise record. That we have one thing to point to and celebrate from this last game.
That was cool. I mean, Myers has been good. The announcers keep trying to jinx him every game. Like they mark down each one as being like hasn't missed yet. And they're trying real hard and maybe they'll get him like at a crucial moment. But good for Jason Myers. He's been a bright spot after having a shakier season last year and looking like the signing that we thought we were getting, an all-pro kind of guy, or at least a Pro Bowl kind of guy.
Sure. Well, at risk of jinxing this team now going into the Thursday night game, the Seahawks are pulling out all of the stats. Undefeated in Action Green, right?
Are they going Action Green for this game?
They're going Action Green. Undefeated in Action Green. Russ is undefeated after losing 2 straight games. And I think they're undefeated when Adam spends 4 days in a row chopping wood ahead of a football game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a true fact. You can look it up in a book. There's a lot. I don't know why, Brandon, but I have this I just believe. I believe they're going to win this game. This feels like a win. I could sit here and try to X and O you all day and tell you this and that and break it down. But you know what? At the end of the day, do you believe in your superstar quarterback to turn it around and stop having this, terrible streak of turnovers? Because I do.
Yeah.
I do. I think we're at that point where he looks himself in the mirror and is like, nope, it's time to do better.
I think he's heard some of this from this past week of people saying, whoa, what's going on with Russ? Well, I suppose it's pretty easy when you have, 3 straight games where you're giving the ball up 3 or more times?
Yeah, can't be doing that. And I just believe that he's going to put together one of those Russell Wilson amazing performances. And I think the defense can do enough. I mean, I just remember back to the first matchup, and that felt like we beat ourselves with mistakes. And I just can't see this continuing week in, week out for this long, forever. I just can't.
Yeah, I think that the Cardinals are going to be awfully fired up after that win against the Bills this last week, though.
That was the extra gut punch at the end of the day,
right?
Was it not?
Because at least at the end of the Seahawks game, you looked up at the scoreboard and you saw about 30 seconds left and the Cardinals were down by more than a field goal. And you said, well, at least the Arizona Cardinals are going to lose. And I think we all had that thought at the same exact time, and we collectively jinxed that ball into the hands of DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh, my gosh. And to have to hear the media talk about it this entire week. Oh, Kyler Murray, what an amazing guy. Blah, 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 blah. Did you see his Twitter post about that throw?
No.
It said, shit. All right, first off, that's not even a word. Okay. SHIDD. Exclamation point. D-Hop down there somewhere. And it's a picture of him throwing the Hail Mary. And they act like that took some sort of skill. I guess, to throw the ball 50 yards in the air, that takes some skill. But there's a zillion dudes that can do that, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't Kyler Murray being great. That was DeAndre Hopkins being freaking phenomenal.
Yeah, but Murray did have to escape a couple dudes who were chasing him down.
No, whoop-de-doo. I don't know. I'm so sick of hearing about it.
I don't want to give Murray a ton of credit either, but
he does it once a game to D-Hop.
Yeah.
Once a game, he just chucks one up to him and he bails him out and makes him look amazing. And everybody's like, oh, Kyler Murray is awesome.
We have Bill O'Brien to thank for all of this.
Yeah, that guy. I don't know where he is. I hope he's hiding in the woods with he's got. I just want him to go away somewhere where nobody ever sees that man again.
Yeah, we're going to be reminded of it though every time that we play the Cardinals.
I guess it's frustrating.
Well, It's also frustrating that there's still some injuries that they're dealing with going into the Cardinals game. Shaquille Griffin continuing to sit out. Ethan Posick will be out with a concussion. He's already been ruled out. Quentin Dunbar ruled out. Jordan Simmons and Nico Thorpe, not as big a deal, but Kyle Fuller apparently suffered a high ankle sprain in that game against the Rams, and he's going to be playing. And it does sound like Phil Haynes is coming off of IR, so he'll be able to back up center, which is nice to at least have a backup now.
Sure. I want to give Kyle Fuller a lot of credit because we didn't talk about it in the last show because it hadn't really been announced that Posick was out with the concussion.
Yeah, that's right.
And so then I see that I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, going up against Aaron Donald, and you got Kyle Fuller, and then I guess you did have Upati coming back in, but then you have your rookie right guard Damian Lewis. So you got a rookie right guard and a center making his first start in Kyle Fuller against Aaron Donald.
Give Kyle Fuller a ton of credit. That was a great effort. You hardly noticed him. Good job by you. I know he had the one low snap, and that's like 100% his fault, 0% Russ's fault. But really, on balance for the course of the game, just wow. Good for him. Hats off, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate his effort.
Aaron Donald on the day was left with 0 sacks, and I don't even know if he got a QB hit in this game. I don't know. Oh, there was 0 sacks, 0 tackles. I think he did have a QB hit, but I mean, that's about as good as you're going to get out of Donald. Now, they made up for it in other ways, but.
Oh, yeah, they did. They did the game plan that the Cardinals exposed at the end of the game that we played them earlier in the season, where you blitz the hell out of Russell Wilson off the edge.
Yeah. Well, and we're going to see that more now against the Cardinals still, but they're probably going to have multiple linebackers on throughout this game because Jordan Phillips won't play. Lecky Fotu's out. Rashad Lawrence, Zach Allen, Corey Peters. So they're down a lot of dudes on the defensive line for the Cardinals.
Yeah. I mean, in every team at this point in the year, I mean, you're dealing with injuries. So at the end of the day, I mean, it kind of points to the depth of your roster. And that's one thing that out of Pete's press conference, like, oh, well, we get healthy. Nobody's healthy, Pete. Nobody's ever healthy. Like, why are we thinking that somehow we're going to go 16 games and have the majority of the roster healthy?
Yeah. Well, you do hope that the roster gets healthier here as we go on. But I'm kind of happy that we're going to have a couple guys in this game that we didn't have the last game against the Cardinals. Chris Carson, maybe, but Jordan Brooks will be out there. I could see them using Jordan Brooks in the similar type of way that they tried to use Shaquem Griffin. But I think Brooks will be much better suited for that role. And then having Jamal Adams on the field, too. Maybe they decide to swap Brooks and Adams in that similar type of role.
Oh, sure. It's not going to hurt. Let's put it that way.
Now, Shaquille Griffin being out, that could hurt a little bit, but.
Yep. Well, hey, Quentin Dunbar being out, that helps.
Yeah. Does it?
Yes.
I don't think, was Dunbar in? I don't know if Dunbar was in that last game.
I don't know. I'm going to give him the blame either way.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. They're going to give up boatloads of yards anyway. It's just going to come down to, can Russ make a drive at the end of the game and win it?
Well, I think that is a very good prediction. Believe it or not. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen the script to Seahawks game, but I think if you're going to make a prediction that seems like a strong one.
Yeah. They'll be down by 3 or 4 with 4 or fewer minutes left in the game, and it'll be on Russ to go and win this.
Cool. Well, there we go. I'm glad you wrapped that up for us.
Couple more emails here. William Rawl came in, says, hey, Brandon, Adam, just a quick mail to apologize for our recent slump in form after the Bills defeat. I had a little niggle that it was due to me, but after the catfishing Rams game, I knew it was definitely my fault. You see, for the first time ever, I've decided to give up beer for the month of November. It's a thing people do over here in Ireland called the Holy Souls. WTF was I thinking? 2 weeks, not a drop, watching the games, and bang, we get stuffed. I have now realized the massive error I've made and plan on correcting it this Thursday night. I've even booked off work Friday as I'll stay up with a couple of beers and watch the Hawks tear apart the Cards. Sorry again for being so inconsiderate. Thanks, Will.
Hey, I'm glad Will's got this together. I mean, I didn't know that that's what he was doing, but I would have been worried about him personally, number one to start with. But knowing that it's affected the team this way, I'm glad he's taking the steps to rectify it.
So England's fault for lockdown, Ireland's fault for not drinking.
Which is a phrase that's never been said ever.
That's true.
Yeah.
Will did say, on a serious note, how bad do we need to see Chris Carson back? He is a big loss when injured. They're undefeated with Chris Carson in the lineup.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. And I know people play it off and all that, but it keeps the defense honest. We don't have to go back to, pound the rock Pete ball. I mean, we can still be in that let Russ cook arena, right? And throw it more on first and all that good stuff. But having Chris Carson out there to set the tone and actually, keep the defense honest is just huge. We need him bad.
It's the one position where everybody looks at and says, you can do it with anybody. But this season has definitely demonstrated the difference maker that Chris Carson is. And man, you just wish he could be healthy for a full season of 16 games.
Yeah, it ain't going to happen. That's not who he is. And that's okay. I'd rather him, be out now for 3-4 weeks than towards the end of the season. I mean, if we can, have him have that break now and then ride him all the way through the Super Bowl, that'd be great.
We need the Carlos Hyde bubble, the Chris Carson bubble. Don't allow the two to be injured at both the same time. I know Carlos Hyde isn't the same running back, but you can't go that far down into your depth to where you're bringing back dudes who were cut from the team years ago.
And then there's also Rashad Penny coming back soon.
Oh, yeah. Pete mentioned in his press conference on Wednesday that Penny was close to coming back, that Darrell Taylor, the second round pick, would be nice to have another pass rusher. Benson Mayo is going to be back for this game.
Yeah, another big thing. So, yeah, we're going to see how this goes. It's a real bummer that you've given up those 2 division games to the Rams and the Cards. This is your first time to make it up, though.
Yeah, you need to win the home games.
You do. And I'm looking forward to it.
And plus, those 2 games are going to be your last 2 games against teams that are decent.
Well, here's the thing. I fully expect them to go out and beat the Cardinals tomorrow. I don't have, like I said, I've got nothing for you that's concrete. It's just my
you just
gut.
feel good.
Yeah. And there's more nerve endings in your gut than your brain. And that's why you should always trust your gut.
Trust your gut. And while you're trusting your gut, trust it as you're going to getintheflock.com. Next week, we'll be doing our shout out to our $12 and above subscribers. So if you want to be in on that, sign up at getintheflock.com.
Definitely. I'd love to have you guys with us while we, start to ascend back towards a Super Bowl run here. It's also nice to be a part of the flock when things aren't going well because, there's people that feel your pain and that's nice.
We've been feeling that through the last couple of weeks. It's time to turn it around. Let's see our Seahawks get back out there, get the win against the stupid Arizona Cardinals at home on Thursday Night Football. Change Adam's mind about these action green jerseys, get the win in them, and then Adam will be hanging up one of those green jerseys up on his wall.
I'm going to let you get away with that green jersey crap and say, with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.